Welcome back to the Make and Mike Crypto Cast. We're going to dive into some good news, some bad news, and unfortunately, there's a lot of it out there. But first, Mike, how are you doing today?
Never been better.
I love that. I
Despite,
love that spirit. Love that spirit.
despite the
You're an
craziness.
investor, so you always think long term. But on the short term, there's some news out there like this DeepSeek stuff that's disrupting AI. We got news about potential just market collapse, and there's just all this FUD around what the market conditions are, and also just kidnappings in crypto. Like, what's the world coming to? There's a lot happening, and of course, the funding rounds that you bring to my attention on a weekly basis now. So let's jump right into it, Mike. You've been doing a little bit of a deep dive into this DeepSeek stuff, huh?
Yeah. So DeepSeek is a Chinese startup, and it's developed a advanced AI model called DeepSeek R1. And it's kind of crazy because this is almost like a side project for like a quant fund, which is kind of nuts. But like essentially, they've open sourced DeepSeek. It's got 671 billion parameters, and like the performance matches or exceeds like models from OpenAI and Meta's Llama in performance. But the biggest deal in this whole thing is that supposedly DeepSeek only trained their models with only about $5.6 million. Now, I don't know how much this can be trusted. There's like rumors swirling around how efficient they were in training this, because this is like 10 times less expensive than GPT-4. OpenAI has spent $6 billion on just their training. So crazy, like insanity how efficient they have been, and just like the entire industry is like up in arms, right? Like, oh, like this is going to change the game. People scared that the US's AI quote unquote dominance is over. And then that's reflected in not just the stock market, but especially in the crypto markets as well.
From like a tech perspective, it disrupted everything. I mean, I saw that NVIDIA went down like 14% around that. Forbes Digital Assets talking about a kind of like a mini crash that we're getting ready to have. And I mean, even Arthur Hayes is, tweeting about this, having this like little bit of a bear market, which essentially will ignite the quantitative easing, which then reflects altcoins going up, right? So it's kind of like a chicken or the egg problem here. Like, what do you need in order for the altcoins to go up? And you need a little bit of bad news, right? Like we had COVID last cycle, and that created like that stimulation, money printing, which then therefore put more money in people's pockets, and that created that altcoin run. Like you need something. And so I don't know, how much do you read into like what Arthur Hayes is saying about having like a mini crash?
I mean, we're kind of seeing. Look, this is just 1 or 2 days worth of market data. We're seeing a pretty decent crash right here, right? Some of the majors like Solana and Avalanche are down over 10%. The AI tokens are getting crushed. Like virtuals, last time I checked earlier this morning, they were down 12%. AI 16Z was down more than 21%. So this is pretty bad news, overall for the tech industry. And look, like David Sachs is our AI and crypto czar, and he's got some work to do, right? I think this is kind of like a potential oh shit moment for the entire tech industry. If this Chinese team can do something so important, like train these models and do it so much more efficiently, it could change everything.
But is it really bad though? Because if you make it easier, and supposedly the information that, if this is more accessible and it's more accurate, that would make decentralized AI better though, right? So this is actually like long-term, like mid to long-term kind of bullish for decentralized AI.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. If you take a step back and look at the potential impact across the entire global AI and crypto and AI space, I think this is good, right? DeepSeek open sourcing their model. Like, so I wrote a tweet a little while ago, like how far behind would we be if Meta did not open source Llama, right? Because a lot of these, a lot of the models that we see in crypto and AI are using Llama on the back end. But now DeepSeek comes out where it's, it's way more efficient in terms of the training, and the performance exceeds many of the current models, and and it's open source. So I agree with you, right? I think there's a couple of different factors that are very positive in the long term because of this open source nature. So yeah, let's take a look at kind of the AI stack, right? So the hottest thing now is agents, right? Like we just talked about, there's AI 16Z and virtuals, right? So these agents with better models and better open source models, these agents are going to get better, right? So trading agents are going to be better. Maybe like code auditing agents are going to be better, right? That's right up your alley. Intense agents, like transactions, are going to be more efficient. They're going to be able to find transactions and save people gas and go in and cross chain whatever transactions crypto people want to do, right? So all those agents are going to improve, and they're good, and so that and the development of those agents is going to absolutely explode. Now, one level lower is the model training. So, DeepSeek seem, at least on the surface, is what they're telling us, is like DeepSeek has kind of introduced these efficient model training strategies that others can potentially copy, right? So now when models become more efficient, they become more performant, and then they'll be able to just get smarter that much faster. Then kind of the at the lowest rung on the infrastructure level, right? Because of their efficient model development, we're not going to be like beholden to the companies with the most NVIDIA GPUs, the most powerful and plentiful computing power for all the AI models, right? And this is going to be good for the renders, the Akashas. These AI models can now be developed with the lower end compute, and then will challenge higher end compute providers like NVIDIA, and like that's why you see their stock tanking because of this. And decentralized compute protocols are going to benefit from this.
The other thing that I wonder is how much of this is just like just cleansing, a little bit of a detox, because there's really nothing negative about what's happening from like a technology and crypto side of things. I mean, you've got the most pro crypto president in office right now who launched his meme coin, which that, in a short term probably was a signal, right? That we kind of reached a short term top. But I mean, things are just looking so promising right now moving forward for AI and crypto. We needed a story to bring us down to earth before we take that next step forward. And, Trump issues a crypto executive order to pave U.S. digital assets path. This video about him signing that executive order, I feel like every single person was tweeting it out on X. And this is huge news. One of the biggest things that comes out of this is around banks being able to custody crypto, because up to this point, it was considered a liability for many banks and they didn't want to touch it. But now that they can actually custody crypto, anybody out there that is holding fiat, they're running and with their heads cut off trying to figure out this whole crypto game, because this changes everything now for them. And so banks, there's going to be a lot of FOMO when it comes to banks and them getting into this space and finding their value prop.
It's a little bit of a different angle, but like, Operation Choke Point 2.0, right? Like banks couldn't do anything with crypto. They couldn't custody crypto. They couldn't provide services to crypto, typical banking services to crypto companies. And now that's all opening up, right? And that was, that was just a massive limiting factor. That is now open. The floodgates are now open. So that's a huge change that is positively going to impact just the companies that are able to operate in the United States.
Besides the banking, Mike, what else do you see that looks pretty promising coming out of this executive order?
Yeah, so one of the things that was always a hot topic was the strategic Bitcoin reserve, right? Everyone has been talking about that. So They didn't quite say that. They actually didn't mention Bitcoin at all, I believe, which kind of riled Bitcoiners up. But they said they were going to evaluate the potential creation of a digital asset stockpile, right? And there were some other ideas. Like I think Trump said that, I don't know if I don't think it wasn't specific to this EO, but it was like, oh, we're going to have like a like a US crypto, reserve or something like that, right? For like crypto companies based in the US. But yeah, they could have a digital asset stockpile possibly from cryptocurrencies seized by the federal government. And another big one was to terminate any plans to create a central bank digital currency. I think that was pretty big, right? I think that would be like big government overreach. I mean, you see, we talked about DeepSeek and what's happening in China with the CCP over there. Like the things that they do with their CBDC is pretty bad. Is like they can force you to spend it or else it expire. It's a surveillance mechanism. So I think terminating that in this EO was a pretty big move, because I think that would be a big overreach. So I think those are the two other points that are pretty promising.
There were some talks about potentially putting XRP, because XRP is made in the United States.
Exactly.
And to your point, a lot of people that are specifically, are Bitcoin maximalists, but honestly, like not just Bitcoin maximalists. Like I see a lot of people that love altcoins, but they don't want to see anything else on that balance sheet besides Bitcoin either, because anything else, it's for profit, right? You have private companies. And when you think about strategic reserves, you think about gold. I don't know what else would be on there, but you don't think about private companies being part of that, right? So it would be kind of weird if they went and put, XRP on there. The other thing that I thought was interesting that's not in the executive order, but there's some rumors about it coming down the pike, Mike. It's around taxes. And Eric Trump came out and said that there would be zero capital gains tax on projects that are essentially born. I don't know if it's necessarily based in the United States or they're born in the United States, but if you are a project, you're launching a token, you're launching something around AI, blockchain, zero capital gains tax to you and also your investors, which I think would be huge. And then on the flip side of that, if you're based outside of the United States, 30% tax on US based investors. So they're trying to incentivize people to come here. And I mean, I don't necessarily mind that if that comes true. I would like to know the details. Like, is it just for the people that are building and innovating, or is it also for investors? Like, that could change a lot of things, the way people look at cryptocurrency investment if it's zero capital gains versus you having to pay 30%.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure there's studies being done on downstream effects of stuff like this. But yeah, like on the surface, that's pretty out there. To have, look, I mean, crypto is a very, very different asset than any other, traditional financial asset, and it should be treated differently. And that's like a massively different treatment. And yeah, it would it would be crazy. I can't even imagine what would happen. It'd be so nuts. Yeah.
So right now, the people that are less optimistic about this potentially happening, they're saying, look, that is very hard to pass. Like the United States cannot afford to do that. But my thought process on this is that crypto is still in its infancy stages. And so while I don't think that this would stay forever, I think now, just to create that catalyst, create that awareness, I think it could very well be done, for the next few years until it becomes more mainstream. And then at that point, you may need to, create more strict policies from a tax perspective. But now you already got people in politics that are, listening to Trump and reviewing all of his executive orders are going, what's this blockchain stuff that he keeps talking about? So regardless of what happens, this is creating more awareness. And so this is what I mean by the stories cannot be more bullish for the industry. And so with what happened today in the markets, I think it's just a way for us to kind of like detox a little bit before heading into that next phase, because everything is looking promising.
Yeah.
And with all this good news, there's also the bad news, unfortunately. Usually when crypto does well, which I know in this very moment, it's not the prettiest picture, but typically when crypto does well, that means influential people have more crypto, which sometimes leads to really bad stories like this coming out. The Ledger co-founder's kidnapping highlights threat of crypto robberies. This isn't the first one. This is one that made headlines, of course, because Ledger is such a big and very commonly used product within crypto. But you saw this with WonderFi. You saw this with certain crypto KOLs, that a lot of influential people in crypto, they become targeted. And, this story is a little bit scary to think about, that this stuff actually happens, right? You have David, the co-founder of crypto, him and his wife were kidnapped and held for ransom in central France. Like, this is a horrific story, Mike.
Yeah, it's like straight out of some crazy, kidnapping movie. Yeah, so David Ballon, he was the co-founder of Ledger. His wife and he and his wife were kidnapped in a ransom attack. Eventually rescued, which is amazing news. And just like it from the movies, Ballon, he had his finger cut off and sent to another Ledger co-founder for ransom. And so part of the ransom was paid, but that whole event led to the rescue operation, and like involved over 90 police officers from France's elite tactical unit. And they've got 10 people being questioned in connection with this, and they were able to freeze the ransom, which was paid in crypto. That was paid to the kidnappers. It was traced, it was frozen and seized. So yeah, like you mentioned, crypto's different, right? Like crypto, you just need that private key to get the fortune, right? Yeah, in typical banking, banks can kind of just freeze their accounts if there's some shady stuff going on, which is kind of in general not great for decentralization, right? But in this specific case, that is a positive thing. But with crypto, all you need is the private key, and you can essentially take someone else's fortune. But this stuff is scary, and it's but I'm glad it all worked out.
This also ties nicely with another story, a development that's happening right now, where I believe BlackRock's Larry Fink is talking about how you can go from Bitcoin to the ETF, and that not being a taxable event. Have you heard about this?
I don't know the details of it. No.
Well, I mean, if that's true, then that could help, right? Because to your point, there are some cases where maybe decentralization is not the best thing. If, let's say, you're scared for your life, and so you can convert your Bitcoin and put it into an ETF and have them manage it for you. And that way you don't have to worry about your assets, assuming everything's in Bitcoin, which I know for many of us in crypto is not the case. But, it is a step in the right direction in terms of giving you a little bit of flexibility within how you custody your crypto. Something else, Mike, that's also not great. I really do hope that they recover from this, but Rune drops 30% as ThorChain suspends ThorFi operations amid restructuring efforts. So I don't view this as a Luna collapse. Like, this is not on that level. I think that Rune has an opportunity to rebound from this, but certainly not great for the longevity of the project.
I think they're going under a little bit of a bank run. But yeah, it seems like this, people are working hard to try to figure out how the finances work on there. But yeah, it's I don't know, hopefully, yeah, it's a pretty decentralized bridge, and I know a lot of people who really enjoyed working on using it, and hopefully they can kind of figure out a good restructuring that makes sense.
But it's not all bad news for the Cosmos ecosystem. The wallet, the Keplr wallet, they actually just finished raising 5 million seed round at 50 million valuation. So Mike, this is your area of expertise. What can you tell us about this fundraise?
Yeah, so it's overall, it's good to see kind of Cosmos get back on the map. If it's not a specific, this is the primarily Cosmos wallet. But yeah, Keplr is a great product. I use it. It's my favorite Cosmos wallet. They raised 5 million in a round led by One Confirmation, and a lot of big names in there. Coinbase and Anagram are participated. And Keplr's got over 1 million users. And they're growing across different chains. And we saw a big fundraise from Phantom. Last week we talked about that. So maybe it's like it's wallet season. And I think with kind of generally the positive industry developments with the new administration, wallets are going to be the primary gateway into crypto. So you got to make those great products there for good UX to onboard a lot of new users. So great on Keplr, and I hope Cosmos gets back into things. I think we're seeing just a lot of we talked about the app chain thesis in past episodes, and a lot of that is based on what Cosmos' original vision is. So hopefully they'll, as a chain, will get back into things. But it's good to see Keplr, the Cosmos wallet, with a little bit of momentum here.
The Cosmos ecosystem, to your point, the technology has always been there. They've always had issues getting that liquidity. But the Cosmos SDK is vastly used. I mean, I know there's a lot of great projects that are utilizing the Cosmos SDK. Mantis, if you heard about them, 30K Ventures actually invested in them. They're focusing on, they're from the composable finance team. And that team itself it's super talented. One of the BDs for composable finance actually is the co-founder now of Zerebro. So there's like a strong AI knowledge base on that team. And that's actually one of the areas that Mantis is focusing on. So I feel like the technology itself has never been the issue. But in terms of the traction with Atom and the use case for Atom, that kind of paints a bad picture around Cosmos. Because right now there's really not a strong use case for the use of Atom when you've got these chains that have their own tokens, right? And I think there's a lot of smart people that are trying to figure that out, of why you would need Atom, but it's a work in progress. That's taking some time. And also the Keplr wallet, it transitioned from just being a Cosmos wallet, and they're also now they are compatible with EVM ecosystems as well beyond Cosmos, which is nice to see, and speaks to the direction that we're all going as an industry, and being able to have that interoperability.
Totally.
The second fundraise that you brought to my attention is around Wingbits. Now, I can't say I'm familiar with this one, so
we talk a lot about DePIN and the philosophy that our philosophy, the token is just an incentive layer to build better products in a community centric way, and it's gonna that philosophy is gonna impact every single industry, including the aviation industry. All right, so this is what Winbix does. It's flight tracking. It's a flight tracking network. So first of all, they raised 5.6 million in a strategic round led by Borderless and Bullish, and participation with Antler and Tribe Capital and a bunch of others. So it rewards contributors with Wings tokens to set up like specialized hardware to collect real-time aircraft location and movement data. So essentially, you're like running like a mini airport tower in your house and getting paid for that, right? It's like you're tracking all these all these flight patterns and flight movements and reporting it to Wingbits, and getting paid in Wings tokens, right? So again, it's just like you just can't, like, who thinks of this stuff? It's amazing. It's just like, if you can launch a token, incentivize users to collect data for you, you build out these very strong data networks faster and more thoroughly than and more globally than any centralized company can, and in every industry, including aviation data. So
And it's a
super
lot more
interesting.
localized, right? I saw something like this
Yep.
when it comes to weather. And
Yep.
weather
Yep.
in some parts of the world, like for instance, like San Francisco, it's very much like neighborhood to neighborhood. It can vary drastically, temperatures change drastically. And so they have something, this particular project has something similar that I'm thinking of. But instead of it being around air traffic control, it's more around local weather. This is a very strong use case where you have like a real physical asset now, right? That's tied to blockchain. And what do you know, Mike? Solana testnet, another DePIN play on Solana. Like Solana's killing it with these, with the whole like DePIN vertical. Like it's not just like, it's not all meme coins. There's like some really strong use cases here.
Yeah, certainly overshadowed by all the meme coins, right? Certainly.
Yeah. Last but not least, it's an
Solana
Ethereum
again.
layer 2, but that uses Solana virtual machine. Like I had to really think about this one. Like an L2 on Ethereum using SVM. Like what's the value prop there, Mike?
Well, you got the parallel processing capabilities, the speed of Solana, being developed in Rust. But you've got Ethereum with the vast amount of liquidity on there, and DeFi on there. So, they're bridging those two and being able to kind of get the best parts of both is something that can be pretty powerful. And people have tried before. I think like Neon has done it. I know they did it a few years ago. D-Bridge, and I think like new one Sonic, which used to be Phantom, is going towards that direction. So there's certainly some competition here, but but soon they raised 21.9 million in a public sale at a pretty big $375 million FDV. I think that's certainly you've got two of the largest most impactful blockchains, and like I mentioned, just there's strengths and weaknesses to each of them. But if you kind of bridge those strengths, you could have something pretty powerful.
I kind of like seeing some of these like non-Ethereum ecosystems supporting an L2 on Ethereum. For me personally, I just want to see blockchain win, right? I'm not going to be in like camp Ethereum or camp Solana, but it's pretty cool to see that you've got like some Solana ecosystem members like Anatoly, like the co-founder of Wormhole, like the co-founder of Celestia, like they're all coming together and we're very early backers of this project. So I think that's kind of cool to see, even though this is an Ethereum L2.
Yeah, look, I think even if whatever the maxis are on either side, I know that they realize that they're whichever one, let's say a Solana maxi, like they know that Ethereum has some strengths. They know that is just they've got so much TVL. There's so much liquidity there, that there is a benefit to trying to tap into some of that. And same thing with Ethereum, where look, yes, Ethereum is kind of going more towards max decentralization, and Solana is not quite there in terms of decentralization. They know that speed is extremely valuable, and high throughput is extremely valuable. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to tap into the best of both technologies.
Yeah, and something that ties closely is around Ethereum Foundation. I mean, there's been a lot of drama lately around how they are structuring themselves internally, and because of their decentralization, sometimes it can be a negative in their case because they can't seem to make a lot of very quick decisions, and they're moving slower than some of these other ecosystems. And personally, I hope that they can get their act together, and I think that they will. I think that a lot of these stories, it's very easy to tie negative stories to the current price, and once you start to see these things that have been happening in the background around World Liberty Financial putting Ethereum on their balance sheet, and this whole Ethereum Bitcoin chart, that would finally find its bottom. That's more from like a technical analysis perspective. But I think once these things start to come in place, all of a sudden there's going to be all these positive stories. So it's very easy to kick Ethereum while it's down, but it's down, but not.
And it is the pro and con of being, you know, decentralized and having a lot of voices, a lot of people sitting at the table. It's tough to move slowly. I mean, it's tough to move fast in that case. Yeah, definitely a different beast than some of the other projects out there.
Yeah. Well, that about covers it for today, Mike. We'll be back next week. And for those watching, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, give Mike a follow Deep Ventures online. They put out a great blog, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
All right. Take it easy.